On. We're good.
All right. We're good?
We're good.
All right.
So should we start over?
So tell me about this. So where were we at? We had the...
Is there anybody in the comments to let us know if you heard us for the last 4 minutes?
Hubert texted you that the audio wasn't working, so that's why I looked at it. It was working, and then it whatever.
Was working
All
or
right.
it wasn't?
Is it working now?
We got...
And Mayday says nope.
No audio?
No.
No
audio?
to the audio.
No audio. Uh-oh.
Hello, hello, hello.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's showing it's working on my end. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, 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 hello. I am talking into the mic now. This is a test. Broadcasting 1, 2.
All right. Well, sending it to Amanda, who commented that she couldn't hear us. Can you hear us now? Good. Can you hear me now? Good. What does Will say?
Audio is working on Twitch.
All right. Let's send it over to the beginning. All right. We've got 4 topics for you. And on the docket for today is Are Devils Among Us? An FBI investigation leads to a satanic cult. Additionally, Walt Disney World actually may be an arm of the Royal Kingdom. And Florida man's at it again. He tries to solve his problem with distracted drivers. Do you agree or disagree with his solution? And then finally, get your bachelor's degree in social media influencing. Welcome to the future. Let's dive right back into that the first topic.
Yeah.
And as we were kind of articulating, the FBI stumbled across an individual, 23-year-old Angel Almeida, for the reason of he alarmed some ongoers in his social media posts by posting images containing violence against children and violence against animals. Furthermore, he had a lot of pictures of him with like skull masks on and carrying around shotguns. You know, what you would typically set off alarms to the FBI. Through further deliberation, they found that he was a part of a group called 764. So when I first came across this title, a 23-year-old arrested for guns possession leads the FBI to a global satanic cult, I got all excited. Maybe we're in Hillary Clinton's living room. We're finally going to the pizza shop. This is Epstein's pyramid. We're finally breaking it down. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's this crazy Discord cult called 764. And boy, did I go down the rabbit hole. So what they found through this Ahmad kid, 764, is a prolific Discord cult where users in the server would be coerced to submit such violent, gruesome content by threat of their personal information being leaked on a doxing platform called Doxbin. So what this Doxbin is you can enter in somebody's like name, and then the hive of internet bastards find all of this person's personal information, address, and dox them. And normally this platform was used for criminals and, child abusers. Instead, this Discord was using it to coerce its members to carry out its violent acts. What's crazy about this whole thing is there's this appetite for gruesome videos. And I was coming across Reddit stories of how members became a part of this cult, and they had this appetite for finding more videos, and it became a snowball effect where they kept wanting to, get this reaction out of their friends and creep people out, so they would look for these groups. Then coming across 764, they get in there, and what enticed them were these gruesome videos, but it was heavily diluted with child porn. And so then people are stuck in this group and they're like, this isn't what I wanted to be a part of. And the way they would get these members to not only continue to remain, but then carry out the acts is through this Doxbin. And what's crazy is they targeted teens with anime profiles and middle-aged men who don't know how to navigate online security. And they would convince these people to get tattoos or carve in 764 into their body. And, another story that provoked the FBI into targeting this group is there was this 21-year-old Caleb Christopher Merritt, and we'll just call this girl 12-year-old Debbie. And he coerced Debbie through Instagram to meet him. Then he got caught. And when he was brought in by officials through questioning, he played it off with he goes, here's my phone. He admitted to meeting her, but it wasn't anything sexual. Gave them his phone, turned out to be a dummy phone. He gets out of there, convinces 12-year-old Debbie that they're doomed and that, convincing her to, turn herself off, those types of things. And she left a suicide note at her grandmother's house and had left to meet Caleb. And fortunately, when her grandmother came across the letter, she called the police. They sent out an Amber Alert, and the police caught her on her way to meeting Caleb. He's away now for like 50 some years. And all I'm getting at is they know how to perfectly circumvent the system. They are a calculated group of people that are trying to navigate this illegal landscape and perpetuate not only the appetite but the product flow of these situations. And the leader of the group, Brad 764, got some other guy to pose as Brad 764 and go to jail on his behalf. So the leader is still out and about running rampant. And what's crazy about the whole thing is, yes, they are a Discord cult, and that's where they normally congregated, but Discord became aware of them, and they continue to turn off their Discords or alert the officials. But the way they were able to circumvent Discord before was through Telegram. So they would delete a Discord and then recreate it, finding all of the people through Telegram. And I guess because Telegram is even less monitored and I guess interventive.
Yeah, it doesn't go through like the DACM type of like takedown authority, like YouTube and some like Twitch.
So finally, they're almost undeletable because of the way Telegram is allowing them to stay connected, even though they continue to be thwarted in other areas.
Well, there's probably always going to be a social media platform or just a platform in the internet. In the internet ecosphere that they'll be able to move and continue to keep going. Well, eventually, it seems like a very Hydra situation. You take one head off, we're going to keep sprouting off somewhere else. This is the first thing that as you're telling me this, it's always the people with the anime profiles. Every single time you hear something bad, like these
that shot's fired. Oh my
these
God.
weebs are just.
Well,
don't get me started there, but. You don't see Disney adults doing that. You don't see it. If you have a Mickey in your profile, you're probably not part of 764. You got a waifu in your profile. It gets a little more sketchy, but this is just disheartening to hear, especially when you have the fact you get down an internet rabbit hole and you want to see more, and there's always some things like that. I think everyone's got a little, this is kind of gross and disgusting. I want to keep seeing this. And then they just grab them here, and it's this whole cult thing. It's scary on one hand of it, because you always see traditionally cults are people. They're out places. They're going, they're having their own secret society meeting in abandoned buildings. But here, it's the internet. It's everywhere. You have this doc spin, and just like we talked last week when we talked about the AIs being able to see through walls, this is just another example of technology that's great for the intended purpose, but it can easily be used against you in a moment's notice. And this doc spin started off great intentions, and now we're just, oh boy, it's easy to be caught in this whole porn situation with this cult. So that's a nasty. That's real nasty here. So so the FBI, they looked into this with the gun situation. They found this. Did they go into detail how they found this particular cult?
Well, so it was his social media post that led him, that sparked the situation.
Okay.
He was a part of this Discord group, but then he also had files of this gruesome content that kind of, connected everything. But what I appreciated was, as somebody that couldn't have less faith in our agencies. There's something, supportive in seeing them actually go against the people I think they hide. So it's like, this is great. You're doing what I pay my taxes for. And additionally, the thing that scares me is there's an appetite for it. And I don't think we're in a social trend away from that appetite. And I think we're continuing to fuel it. That's coming from somebody who was stoked to get their best friend Kemp to see Saw for the first time.
Yeah.
Because they're coming out with a new Saw. And I couldn't be more excited. But there's something I was a kid watching them pluck eyeballs out fictionally at 10 and now 29. It's like there's something weird there. And what would have just totally irked people before has snowballed into something that's just casually natural. And when people log in every day to listen to Joe Rogan and they look up to him and they appreciate him, I've heard him on numerous occasions now go like, is everybody's Instagram algorithm just people dying, like people getting shot and people like his Instagram algorithm, based on what he's described, has pretty much become 7 faces of death. And one, that's not my algorithm. And so funny enough, Joe List is like, mine's like puppies, dude. I don't know what yours is, but that's not. So him and Tom Segura, based on what they've said, have this relationship where they try to outgross each other by finding these gruesome videos and sending them to each other. Whereas their best friend, Eddie Bravo, was all MMA stuff. So one, these algorithms are created to put you on a track. And then whether or not it really is the track you loved at the beginning, it's making it a love for you now and is continuing to perpetuate and push you down that path. Whereas before, you probably would have been just satisfied with surfing videos. Little did you know, but now you're looking at people getting shot. And when you look at something like, have you ever seen Don't Mess with Cats?
Yes, I have. Yep. Nope.
An
Netflix
amazing
documentary
story about the human hive.
Yep.
Well, that guy wasn't doing what he was doing. He was just, for those of you who don't know, it's an awesome story about the human hive where a guy was posting gruesome videos like this to killing cats.
Yeah, killing kittens online.
A Facebook group of passionate people that didn't support what he was doing stood up against it, and they were looking at the door handle in the background, the manufacturer of the rug that he was sitting on, all of these things to hunt down his exact location, and they did a manhunt, hunting this guy down. The sad part is, I think he is just a minor symptom of the increasingly future problem of what our appetite is becoming.
Yeah, and what the algorithm is essentially feeding you. I remember right around when Trump got elected, and there was this pushback from YouTube and some of these other social media sites where they said, I think there's these children get more radicalized by Republican ideology, and they keep seeing it on algorithms. I used to think that's a little bullshit. You're searching for some of the stuff. You want to be a part of it. Yeah, some people can get radicalized, but I'm starting to see more and more now where there's just these algorithms, they lead you down a path and there's no coming away from it. And I can't just go on, any of these platforms and say, hey, reset my algorithm. Just right. I wish that was an option. Why?
Great point.
Just
but don't you think there's a reason why that's not the case? It's their ability to further control that.
They want you on there. They want that watch time.
They want you at the will. Like here's the thing. The other platforms couldn't compete with TikTok because TikTok was the platform giving us the most of what we wanted, right? It was the most addicting yet. You could do Silicon Valley clowns. You could make this an even more addicting platform.
Yeah.
But you're not, because you also don't want to give up that much control over what I see. So TikTok was able to make the most addicting platform because they gave us the most of what we wanted to see. I think it's a control thing.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. I think that's exactly right. They want you on there. They want you to keep going through it. How many times you've been through just swiping through TikTok or Reels, and you waste before you know it, you're wasting an hour. It's not. boy, there's no like stop button, and I don't really want that. Like, so, Netflix would do the same thing. Like, you still watching this? Like, well, hey, no, don't slow me down here, buddy. let me have my pace.
Even if you're asleep,
I just keep it going. I'll catch it up. I'll figure it out. But they won't let you reset it. I don't like government intervention. I hate it. It would be great just to be able to. Can I choose my own algorithm? Can I choose what type of algorithm I want? Make it.
How about this? It should be open source code, what your algorithm is.
You know what? That might be the better way to do it.
That's the legal, like, here's the thing. I think we are shadow banned. Like, I definitely think we got an uphill battle because we're selling open dialogue and, communication and encouraging, extending the arm across the aisle. And the problem is they don't want that. They don't want us coming together. And I think the thing you're going to face is it not only is it a control problem, but you're looking at, I don't know, there's too much money to be had for them to just hand over the keys.
Yeah.
They've had cooperation with the government for this long, for this purpose. They've handed over full cooperation, and in return, the government has promised to never intervene. So, one, I think it's a delusion to think they would intervene to begin with, because it's just a charade that they're not in Silicon Valley's back pocket.
Yeah.
But furthermore, they can't afford for us to get more connected. And again, I think the internet went away. It got away from them. They thought they were just creating something that was a tool for them that they could also control. Little did they know the nerds could circumvent the whole problem to begin with, and now we're more connected than ever before. So they're trying to suffocate that.
Yeah, it was a Wild West for the longest time, and now they're coming back in here. They're trying to find ways to limit you, to get you out of your little bubbles, or really concentrate in your bubbles. Just like you have some FBI stories where they try to find Muslim men, and they intentionally radicalize them,
right,
just so they would almost commit a crime. So they get it, and all of a sudden, hey, we're good. We prevented crime by pretty much causing it.
That's crazy.
So, yeah. Now, last week, since I think you appreciate the Satanic, or not, let me rephrase that. Not appreciate Satanic, but you are very much afraid of the Satanisms coming around here. Do you think this has anything to do with it?
So I'm not afraid. I'm very conscious of it. And I actually get excited for the opportunity to take up arms against this unholy enemy. But what I do think is there is a culture that's being bred among us from not just this particular cult, right? Like, I think a group of low-life assholes using Discord, an unmonitored communication device. Like, it's monitored, clearly Discord intervened, but like an off-the-grid type communication meeting place. I think that's just a symptom of the bigger problem, right? I had this gentleman who is gay, who was supposed to come on the show to talk about this topic, but instead just talked about his real estate background. But one of the things that provoked him coming on the podcast was I posted something like, we're going to go on this DeSantis thing, and part of it was the Don't Say Gay bill, right? And so you had these people up in arms about being prevented from talking about these types of topics in school. And I had a comment in support of it. So he came out, and his position was, you don't know how hard it was being a gay man in a school and in a society where all the movies were straight people and all the conversations in school were straight people. And that's what's being perpetuated, is straight sex. And my response that he could never actually retort was, maybe if I'm hearing this for the first time, and maybe I'm seeing there's a problem. Maybe we're pushing too much straight sex on kids. And maybe the answer to straight sex on kids isn't balancing it with more gay sex. How about we pull back the sex on kids, and let's just see how this made a gay kid feel, and let's just recognize that we should probably stop talking about sex around kids. So I say that because I think we're in a culture right now where sex, drugs, alcohol. It's the shiznit. Did you just see there was a documentary about Kanye West, and just from 2018, and just now they released a video that got cut from it, and it's him talking to his manager about how Cardi B was a CIA plant to replace Nicki Minaj, and she's just there to push degeneracy. And I say that because don't forget, she's the one talking about her WAP to your little girls. So when I'm talking about the degradation of society, these are the little things I'm talking about. Also, I want to double back and remind you that we have private jails. They're owned by private entities. And those private entities that are incentivized in butts in jail cells, yeah, they are the same private entities that own the record labels that are pushing our rap and hip hop content. Maybe creating a culture that pushes sex, drugs, violence, because they're the ones that are also able to profit off of this. So I think a small little cult of assholes is a mini symptom of a culture that is heavily degraded and is, listen, you may not believe in a satanic cult. If you believe in God, it is ludicrous to not think Satan exists. But also, it's even more ludicrous that you can believe whatever you want. But there's so many different perspectives and there's so many different lives in this existence that it's equally as ludicrous not to believe that someone out there doesn't believe in Satan, therefore isn't motivated in pushing that. I'm here to support God and push what God wants and Jesus wants and push peace, love, and goodness out to the world. If that's what my nature and calling I believe to be, you don't think there's anybody else out there motivated to push they believe to be maybe even the satanic side of things?
Possibly. I see some of this. A lot of this is being edgy for being edgy. I don't see a whole
carving. Like we avoided a lot of the gruesome things because it's so gross.
Yeah.
But getting people to bite the heads off of their pets and carve 764 into themselves, or one of the ones was they did 764, had a minor do 764 in cocaine and then blow it all. Like, that isn't just like a ha-ha ruse. Like, there is a nasty nature motive there pushing even something even nastier.
But is it nasty to be nasty, or is it nasty because they're worshiping a satanic cult? I see a lot of this is it's just nasty to be nasty. I don't think they need. Now, do they frame Satanism as an idea, an ideology?
Are you a religious person?
Not really. No.
So what do you think the nastiness in people, like nasty to be nasty? What do you think that is?
Oh, it's just a
genetic variation by science.
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty fair way to put it. But there's you see the pain if you want to cause pain in people, or you want to be able to have other people inflict pain on them. There's like a puppet master, control center, really getting them to do your bidding. And seeing this, when we refer back to that story here, yeah, when we refer back to that story, he's taking desperate people who are looking for a little bit of meaning or get themselves down the very wrong rabbit hole, and all of a sudden, I got you by the balls here. I want you to do all these nasty things here. Some of these members might like doing it just for the edginess factor, being, just disturbed individuals. Some of it are a little edgy. But I think most of them are like, oh, I got myself a situation I can't get out of. I got to keep digging myself deeper and deeper in this hole, and maybe I can get out on the other end. That's where I see a lot of this. I think back on the Cardi B is an FBI plant to subvert Nicki Minaj. That one... Can you dive a little deeper into that one?
No, because I'm not Kanye West. I'm just telling you what Kanye West said. Now, okay. I truly, in my heart of hearts, do think that's what a lot of the business is and has become. But I'm just saying that literally came out like 2 days ago. Kanye West saying that. And I think that goes to the bigger picture where Brian could get lost for days looking up articles about how the same entities that own our jails own these labels that are pushing these messages. So again, no offense, but whether that's a conspiracy or not, right? Like falsely fictionized story or not. Here's the fact. You live this life.
Yep.
And you should see, like the Indiana Jones scene, that Nicki Minaj was perfectly switched out with Cardi B.
Okay.
And Nicki Minaj was singing Barbie songs to your daughter. Be independent, be strong. None of it was your WAP. Okay? And yet the audience didn't change. So a young girl can become a millionaire and ultra famous on the Ellen Show singing a Nicki Minaj song because in your living room at two suburban moms at 5 p.m., it isn't a song that has to be explicit, censored, or inappropriate. And that entity, that model, that figure was replaced with WAP. With WAP.
Yep.
I'm not the one to sit here and pretend that Nicki Minaj didn't have big ass pushing songs.
Yeah.
But she did a good job of separating that from when her audience was intended to be the radio girls. The songs on the radio were separate from, and it might just be a culture thing, but Cardi B doesn't have the clean songs, and her explicit WAP songs have now found themselves on the radio. But
yeah.
I want to take it even further.
Right.
I think back to the appetite thing and how it continues to grow. Haunted houses were a fun little thing when people threw sheets over themselves. And I don't know if part of this is just a symptom of increased science, where latex and makeup and prop science has gone so far that it's practically real. Yeah. But the haunted house Halloween game is nothing like it was 30 years ago. And are you familiar at all with McCaney Manor?
Yeah. Is that the one where you spend like 30 grand or something like that, and you just get all the whole hell kicked out of you?
That's it. You're striking on the chord. If you survive McCaney Manor, it's a contractual scam. And I implore anybody to get lost watching Reckless Ben on YouTube. Search it. He infiltrated McCaney Manor, and he's in this crazy lawsuit with them because they offer you, I think it's $25,000 if you survive the haunted house McCaney Manor, and you sign all of these releases, and you get succumbed to this like gruesome. It's pretty much just a beating.
Yeah.
And what Reckless Ben found is there is no haunted house. There's none of these bees and rats and stuff that he claims to be in the haunted house. You get there and it's just, an open property, and he makes you carry dog food and do exercises and holds you underwater until you quit. It's crazy.
Way.
Oh
no
my
way.
God. It's all a scam.
Oh.
But what's crazy about McCaney Manor is once you do it, you are now a part of a Discord group that can watch all future people who go to McCaney Manor. And there's a lot of fishy stuff, right? Like he gets thousands and thousands of contestants trying to go annually. But when Big Ben threw in his application, he got a response in like 20 minutes. He's like, it's pretty quick for like thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah.
So they're trying to make these people who have also experienced the manor and have seen how it's all BS, but they don't see it because they're under the ruse. And now they like signing up and watching these people get beaten. I mean, you should see some pictures. People's faces just beaten to gory hell. And he goes, to prove to me I shouldn't sue you for $25,000. Show all of your viewers who are watching me do this, show them one rat. Your contract says, or beehive. You're saying you've got all of these things. Just show them one rat, and then you prove to me there's a manor that none of us have ever gotten to. And he's trying to lead the horse to water, right? He's showing these people, like, look what you sign up for weekly to watch people do. Gross. But even furthermore, you're under the cult ruse that you can't even see. It's all a phony charade. And there's the right-hand woman to this guy. She sees it, admits it. He's got videos of her admitting it, but still is defending his lawsuit and is still defending McCaney Manor. So I think, again, one small anecdote, but before we have you ever heard of a movie called Birds or Cujo?
Cujo. Birds, like the Alfred Hitchcock movie? Okay, all right.
So there's Birds.
Yep.
And have you ever heard of Cujo?
Not heard of Cujo.
Oh, that's another great one.
It's a good one.
So 2 old classics. Birds more than Cujo. When you go back and watch these old movies, they're campy. They're funny. You laugh because they're not Saw, where they show an X-ray of a key behind an eyeball, and then the dude's got to pop the eyeball out. I mean, I watched Saw 1 with Kemp, and Amazon cut the most gruesome part, which made Saw what Saw was, and that's they literally showed bone crushing, sawing through a person's leg. Why would they cut that out for something that came out in 2004? If that isn't something that we probably shouldn't be seeing or is appropriate to be censored, and are we not going to take the position that we've gone a lot further in gruesome violence and pushing this appetite than we were in 2004?
Yeah, I want us to step back a second, because this is starting to be. Are we modern day boomers now with some of the sex, drugs, and rock and roll back in the?
But are you gonna say Elvis? Like Elvis didn't sound like the devil's music when he was just swaying his hips. But are you going to deny that maybe those crazy people were right in that Elvis' music still did lead to WAP singing to your little girls?
I guess to 10 degrees of separation, maybe, but it's not. I think our different societies do. So like you grew up with, let's use Nicki Minaj and Cardi B as kind of some examples here. So Nicki Minaj, that's what, high school-ish, probably about late high school. That's kind of what we're paying attention to, a little more of our generation at end. And then we get a little older, I start hearing Cardi B, and it's a little edgier. And are we one of the bigger media markets where these studio companies just want us to grow up with this particular artist and be a part of that? Because I don't know what the kids are listening to these days, but I can't imagine it's always Nicki or it's always Cardi B.
The guy that's saying Old Town Road and that started his career.
Yep.
And he was a cute guy in a cowboy hat singing to your kids in the gymnasium. Please tell me you remember that.
I remember
that. Like he toured kids' schools singing this song.
Yeah.
And then immediately following that, he's in S-less chaps grinding on the devil.
Yeah.
But we are not a satanic culture leading down that road. We're not leading down that road when, what's her face, Doja Cat, who is also the new Katy Perry, is out here dressed like a demon, new album named Demon, and she's telling all of your little girls to paint. It's better to be famous, paint the town red.
Well, I think being famous has always been pop culture, celebrities. Hey, don't you like the way I look? Of course, be famous. I don't think there's a whole lot of people who don't want to be famous on that end. Now, are we taking some of this a little bit too far? I am waiting for the pendulum to swing the other way. I think we may be getting. I think to your credit here, we're getting a little bit too much into our. Going a little too far on violence, sex, drugs, rock and roll, all that. I do think, like with anything, the pendulum is going to swing back the other way, where we are going to be a bit more conservative in the way we approach how we listen to media. So it just like Elsagate, you're familiar with that? Well, while we're on the topics on just
dump it on me.
Crazy internet, I don't even know if this is a conspiracy. This is just some freak that takes Elsa videos, Peppa Pig, Spider-Man, and just on the face of it looks innocent enough. They're just simple animations that are going through the motions, has a story. But when you watch it, they're pissing all over each other, they're hitting each other, they're showing genitalia, and this is in the kids approved section of YouTube. So there's this particular group of people, I don't know if it's one guy or several, that are animating these videos and just getting the rocks off to having children see this. That's just deranged behavior. And the unfortunate part, I think, when we kind of started off here with internet talk, is the internet. It's a lot of great things, but yeah, this gives them a channel. This gives a lot of deranged people a channel and a platform to be able to get into their children's minds. I know if I were to have a child here, I would be scared to hell of the internet. Like, how do you raise a child in the internet age and try to just monitor everything they're doing, especially when it's easier than it's ever been to be able to see these things and be exposed to it? Because all it takes is some weird person just sending you a link, and bam, Now you see something that you just can't lose some of that innocence. And I think the conservative ends, or there's a lot of people that really pound on that, maybe a bit too hard, but there is some truth to it. Absolutely. I don't want my children watching some of this stuff, and you got to be real vigilant on it. Oh my God, even I can, you've been down some internet rabbit holes. It's not good.
That was very well said. As for wrapping thoughts for me, I first want to address talking about being a parent today. And one of the toughest things, I had a conversation with my cousin this weekend. And one of the things she's struggling with is she is trying to parent a child where they go to school and all of those other kids are parented differently, whether there's less oversight or they're allowing them to be exposed to more different things. But she's having to explain to her kid, well, why is there a boy cheerleader? And to my dad, that was an easy conversation. But today, that's a bit more complicated.
Yeah.
Furthermore, these kids are going on Roblox. And one of the things I forgot to mention is one of the avenues they would find these kids is Roblox, Discord, things that are easily accessible for kids and are considered, kid platforms alongside adult. Like Roblox is strictly kids.
Yeah, just advertised for children.
Adults can easily make a kid profile, and now it's kind of like Club Penguin as we understand it.
Yeah.
It's an online platform where you're talking to strangers, and before they know it, they're befriending somebody whose capacity is 20 years older and able to manipulate them. Very scary. And then when sciences like the Oculus, and who knows how it's going to snowball beyond that, continue to be thrown on their plate, parents, I don't even understand Oculus. So how are some parents going to be able to navigate a realm that they're ignorant to, but throwing their kids into? Because if not, they're going to be an ostracized social misfit at school.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as I have fear for these types of things, I laugh because my dad and my mom fought at Toys R Us to get me and my sister a Wii when those things were a hot ticket. Little did they know it was going to give me unfettered access to the internet with the search history they couldn't monitor or check. They didn't know that. They didn't know I just have an easy access internet web browser until we have a room full of 7th graders looking at boobs. But at the same time, they would have been in our seat going, that's unhealthy for these kids.
Yeah.
I think we're tough beings and there's a nature to us. I think like if we had a pill that solved a heart attack, yeah, it works for 90% of the people, but 10% of the people are going to have this bad side effect.
Yeah.
I think the same thing happens when we're exposed to the Wii, Oculus, the whatever meta will come up with next. You're going to have the vast majority of people, whether it's gross, gruesome, sexually inappropriate or not, they'll be able to adapt. The sad part is I think in any realm, you're going to have a side effect group of people. Last point I want to make is I can resonate with your position of these being deranged behaviors. However, I do not agree. I could see the point. This is just genetic variability, and through statistics, it's statistically inevitable. There is a number of people that would be crazy in this way,
Okay.
or diverge from the norm in another way. But the one thing that I don't necessarily subscribe to is that this is just all one fluke with no purpose, and this wasn't by the hand of some creator. And so my personal opinion, and it has no bearing on anything other than just my heart,
Yep.
I believe that all of those people that are in either perpetuating or succumbing to this deranged behavior, I believe they are either succumbing to the serpent's tongue or don't realize but are being infected. This is the devil's world, I believe. And so it's inevitable that you're going to have to confront and butt shoulders with the devil himself and his temptations or his manipulations. I could see why it doesn't make sense and why the position would be it's just genetic variability. There's always going to be 1% of Jeffrey Dahmer. But at the same time, I think you can always track back. Maybe that's just the determinist in me, but there's always something that led to that, whether it was a genetic thing or you were abused by a parent or, whatever the case may be. What are your final wrapping thoughts?
I think some of that might be
Brian may have died.
I think to your point on the devil's tongue coming through, I think some of this might be concentrated just because the internet seems to highlight it. And especially when you see stories like this, are we just more aware of it? How much of this would have been going on under normal circumstances versus now we have the internet, more information coming at us. So does this community become bigger just because they have easier access to each other?
Yeah, that's the scarier point too.
Yeah.
Wow. Brian, I know they can't show you because the phone's got to charge, but any wrapping thoughts?
Yes, I have two. I like the analogy that you used with the Nicki Minaj becoming the Cardi B and all the other artists that you named. And my second point was, I don't know if you have seen anything about this, but I heard Toys R Us is coming back.
What?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You didn't hear about this?
No way!
They're having like 25.
My grandma just rolled over in her grave.
So
this is awesome.
Brick and mortar stores.
Piggybacking off of like the children, what are they going to do? I think this will be a great addition to that.
Oh, I love
bringing
that.
back Toys R Us.
Man, bring back Jeffrey the Giraffe. That's what we need. The world went to hell the moment we lost Jeffrey the Giraffe. That's all I'm saying. All right, you ready for our next topic? That one was
Speaking of children's playgrounds.
Yes, this is crazy. Talking about groomers, Disney blocks Ron DeSantis with King Charles clause. So let's get to the topic here, right? Walt Disney World, are they actually an arm of the royal kingdom? There's this crazy conspiracy going around so everybody knows how once the Don't Say Gay bill came out, Disney started speaking out against DeSantis. And I think it's a totally inaccurate characterization of what the bill was anyway. And that's part of the reason why there was this rift. At the same time, DeSantis wanted to humble Disney as they continue to make their movies gay and
push an agenda.
They DeSantis wanted to strip them of their self-governance power in the state of Florida because currently Disney has a special tax district. And so they wanted to do away with that. DeSantis also wanted to rename the area the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District and strip them of their Walt Disney title. In doing so, he would plant a new board of supervisors to oversee this. Understanding that before this happened, Disney had their own board of supervisors making and dictating the laws of this land. So that isn't totally, and so the conspiracy theory that I stumbled across was that they were able to bar these plans by DeSantis by pointing out that they aren't actually owned by America and they're on English land. And it's this whole crazy conspiracy theory. Without exhausting it because it's a waste of breath, it's totally not true. It isn't that Disney is on some English land that prevents them to bar DeSantis. But personally, I think it's an even scarier thing. I would have liked to have known that this was English land and all I had to do was grab a couple of, they have their muskets, I have an assault rifle. This is an easy fix. But that wasn't the case, unfortunately. Disney's long-established district occupied 55 years. And so when DeSantis came to kind of thwart this issue, Disney's power play was to strip the board, DeSantis's board, of its power until 2053. How was he going to do that? So the goal was to pass. So here's what happened.
Okay.
Before the board, Disney's board was disbanded and DeSantis's board was put in. Literally just before. Disney's board made an agreement with Florida officials that includes a royal clause so here, Disney, the company, made an agreement with this Florida organization, a board of people owned by Disney, and the agreement included a royal clause that dates back to 1692 and would extend the term limit for decades. The declaration is, this declaration shall continue in effect until 21 years after the death of the last survivor of the descendant of King Charles III, King of England, living as of this date. The kind of clause is often used for the UK, typically when it comes to trusts, and provides against perpetuities, right? So a trust preventing something to last forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
However, it would never be used for such a contract, and this would mean it goes on so long as those grandchildren make it to 80 years, it would last beyond 100.
Interesting.
So what they did was make this English type agreement, like our agreement with Disney, the Florida state's government's agreement with Disney, is tied to the life of King Charles, his grandchildren, plus 21 years. That's insane. And now they're barred from any government intervention. And so, how is this not collusion? A board that was owned by Disney passed a law barring the governor of the state for over likely 100 years.
So,
And if not more, because let's be real, is it likely most of these royals are going to die at 80? Did you see
No.
the Queen? They're going to live to 1 million.
yeah, they got, boy, I don't know what's in their blood, but well, probably royal blood, but they're living a little longer than most people really should be living. Now, with this, I guess in the words of this, does that mean one of the trustees is a royal family member? That's the way I read it when you read that out loud. So
It's not that they're a trustee. It's okay. Maybe hold on. I don't want to get.
So you wanted to replace the
language wrong.
trustee. You want to replace the trustee members.
So this new district will be barred from the intervention of the new board with this King Charles clause. So the new DeSantis board, we'll call it, will be barred from enacting any new
there we go.
intervention for as long as King Charles's oldest grandchild plus 21 years.
Interesting.
Insane, dog. Not interesting.
That's a real Hail Mary, probably legal practice. And they somehow, hats off to the lawyer that's like, hey, I got
$1 billion legal team, dude.
Oh, they're one of the most ruthless legal teams in all of, probably not just entertainment, just in general, just in the world. They are nasty. So this guy probably woke up one day. He's like, I think I got an idea, guys. We're gonna be royal decree, and we're out of this. Just the mechanism on how this legally works, it must be pretty intricate. As you, the lawyer, I'm assuming this must have blew your mind.
Oh, well, so I'm not totally left in lack of faith because it's continuing to be sought out in the legal system, right? DeSantis is bringing this to appeal and trying to strip them of this immunity. But at the same time, it's quite an insane immunity, something I've never seen before.
No.
It should alarm us that our government has become the corporate state.
Yep.
It isn't the dead guy that's, puppet at the helm calling himself president. It's corporations dictating our outcome. And the more and more we push these issues and become educated on the situation, the more we realize that their allegiance is to America is last.
Oh, absolutely.
Their allegiance themselves is first, and everything else falls between that. So it should be scary when we give them self-governance power, self-taxing power. Dude, you're taking half of my paycheck every 2 weeks and giving it to gender study courses in Pakistan and building a border in Ukraine more than you are my border. But then I'm the insane one when I'm looking at this company going, oh, wait. No. I get to control my own tax bracket.
Yeah.
What?
This is a company, and just essentially, this is a company town. We just put a nice little bow on it. We put some colors around it. We throw fireworks every day. And now all of a sudden, we can just kind of get away with whatever we want.
One of the #1 tourist cities in the world gets to govern and tax itself. Let that settle in.
Yeah. I think the more we call it a company town, the more we're probably bringing awareness to this one. Because this is just like, those old mining towns. There's a reason we have unions, and that's part of it. Part of that whole reason is like, eventually we're going to start having Disney bucks. Well, you can't use dollars and cents here. You can only use Disney bucks.
What would that solve? Or are you saying that's the
that's the manipulation tactic they'll use. Like, oh, you're just in a whole new world, and it's our world of our creating, and they get to push whatever agenda, how they want to do, and not even just beyond. Let's just be on social issues, but just how they treat employees, how they manage. So they have housing there. So the people who work there have housing there. It's like, well, you probably pay rent to the housing the company owns. And it's just when you frame it that way, it doesn't seem like the most magical place in the world here. Oof, but I hate this so much. That's corporate town, corporate power, and they throw this just Hail Mary of a legal system right back at the governor. Because I think the start of all this, okay, all right, we're kind of punishing Disney because we're not liking the way Disney reacted to the bill. Now we're just seeing just the muck of all this, the corporate state just coming out in the open here.
Well, so whether you agree or disagree for the reason why there was push against Disney, right? Like, some would support standing up against them pushing the gay agenda. Some would also argue that this isn't a gay agenda. It's just allowing, people to exist and pushing other ideologies and perspectives, or just equity, making everybody heard and feel a part of the game. Whether either of those situations are the case, what's the result? The result is highlighting the fact that there is a mafioso, like, just take a mafia town. And there is a mafioso running this town. And for the longest time, there's been peace between the mafia and the government surrounding it, the governor that maybe controls that state. And what I think we need to recognize is whether or not we agree for the reason why the governor is pushing back against this mafia, Disney is flexing its muscles in such a degree that is showing that they are, in fact, a mafia. And you would be okay. Like, again, people actually did like many of the mafias running their towns because while they were a crime syndicate, they kept peace among their town and they appreciated them and what they supported and what they pushed. So many people are going to be willing to throw their head in the sand and or allow Disney to kind of have this unfettered, unnecessary power because they like it. I like Buzz Lightyear. You make Buzz Lightyear movies. I'm willing to look the other way because you make going to Buzz Lightyear land a blast. Yep. But whether or not you agree with DeSantis's reasoning, no matter what, we're forced to confront the fact that good entity or bad entity, no entity, especially this large, should have this much power, especially this much unfettered power.
Oh, yeah. And then,
we have a comment.
Oh,
from my parents.
Hey,
all right.
How about Disney is compared to coal miners' company store?
Yeah.
How is
so the company store, right?
Oh yeah, you have the miners had the store, they had the Disney, or they had the company bucks that they could only spend in the town. And the way they spun it was, well, we don't want Uncle Sam taxing you all this. Well, we'll just give you your full paycheck, and in return, you just
give me the full paycheck back.
You give that to me, but we'll store it with all the chocolates, beer, whatever you want. We can have it in there. The Disney thing, although they're not doing that now, but I could easily see, it happened before. There's reason to believe that, well, even with the worker protections we have in place, but because they have so much control over that particular town, that they're able to get away with some of these things. And if they try to stop them, we see the governor trying to stop or at least take away some of that power, and they're just throwing everything at the wall to keep and retain that power. Someone that's trying to keep that much power for themselves is inevitably going to use it for the wrong reasons. Whether they're doing it good now, whether you like it now, or it puts a nice paint on it, it's eventually going to be corruptible power.
Sure. My wrapping thought is going to be this. They are creating a state of themselves. This is essentially a Chaz zone. Yeah. So whether a good entity or a bad entity, we should all become alarmed by this. And you raised this throughout the dialogue earlier in the show, and I'm not one to push for more government intervention. At the same time, though, something needs to restrain this beast before it totally succumbs to us all and takes us completely over. Do you have any wrapping thoughts?
No, I think that little monologue I had there with the question. Thank you for the question, audience. We would love it. We would love some more questions here. But no, I think you put it pretty well here. We need some checks and balances to keep everyone from having too much power.
Brian, wrapping thoughts.
Yeah, I don't want government to become a corporate office. I'm really not into the whole corporate idea, but intervention seems pretty necessary at this point.
Yeah, it does. And what that intervention looks like, I don't know. It's a scary thought because, again, you don't want to push for more.
No,
at the same time, though,
and you don't want others to get the same idea.
So let me introduce this next topic real quick, and then once you start talking, I have to bring in Brian's camera back. Okay, so Florida man is at it again, but I think you might actually side with Florida man this time. So the Florida man was fined $48,000 by the FCC for installing a cell phone jamming device in his car. So this guy, he would have a commute every day down Interstate 4 in Tampa. And he installed a cell phone jamming device behind the seat of his passenger because he was so annoyed by drivers who were totally distracted. They were looking at their phones. They were looking at their dashboard, texting, looking up music, whatever the case may be. But everybody was distracted by their devices. And so this man solved the problem was jamming all of their devices. So all the people surrounding his car on his way to the commute to work would have their cell phones lose service. And he was able to get away with it for 2 years. So the problem with this is you often will, and this is where I see the need for the FCC to step in. We don't really want people having the ability to block police and first responder radio communications as well as disrupt cell phone towers. So this guy, again, doing it for 2 years. Metro PCS eventually contacted the FCC and said they had noticed a pattern. There was a series of cell phone towers going down at the same point along I-4 during the morning and evening commute hours on weekdays only. The police then set up an interface detection device in that spot along the interstate. And a few days later, our good friend Jason drove past, and the policeman pulled him over. They immediately knew they had the right guy because as soon as they approached the vehicles, all of their radios lost signal. So what are your thoughts?
Well, this is goofy. This guy, he woke up in the morning and said, you know what? I'm sick and tired of this. Because I drive sometimes, maybe all the time, every day. And you see someone on their car or you see someone on their phone. It's annoying. And you get a lot more crashes, and you just have people that just go and just have you see them on the phone. They're just like face deep in it. Who knows what they're watching? So this guy comes out of the woodwork and decides I'm gonna change this. He's the Batman in the story. He thinks he's gonna just solve all his problems, and I bet for a time it's probably really working. Imagine you're driving on the highway and all of a sudden your GPS cuts out. Like, what the hell? I don't know where my next turn is. And he's just causing mayhem unbeknownst to himself. And he's just having a ball with it. Now, canceling out cell phone towers and all that, this guy must have had a serious rig in his car. He must have been weighed down, thousands of dollars worth of just jamming material. All right, yeah, I'm on his way.
You're going to be surprised. It was literally just like a pocket device.
No way.
It's like this big with just a couple like antennas coming out. So this comes back to like an interesting topic we've kind of touched upon in the past. The government's, so we've talked about like privacy laws and their ability to like enter your privacy. And like take, for example, a perfect case law was there were guys growing weed plants, and the police were using these detectors could see heat lamps through walls to detect that they had these plants to then, get a warrant to go in and arrest them. This guy was able to prove, or, there was a precedent set that the police could only use equipment to intervene in somebody's privacy that is easily accessible to the public.
Yep.
What's interesting, I don't know how you access through people's privacy with this, but the more this equipment becomes easily accessible to the public, as said in, legal terms, what else is this going to, like, if open the doors to for equipment that can be used for surveillance on the public? At the same time, though, this is clearly not something we want public to just be able to use.
No, you could easily you could cause mayhem through society if it's just as small as you're saying it is.
Yeah.
You could lay this near a hospital, a police station, and just jam things, especially if there's like a big emergency going on. You could cause some real mayhem.
Well, so let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's compare it to like a pistol with a silencer on it,
Yeah.
right? Someone would say there's a use for that for somebody who means no harm.
Yep.
And that person should be able to access it. At the same time, there's somebody saying that shouldn't be accessible to anybody because there are people that want it, that do want to do harm. So what are your thoughts on, like, I'm a freedom person.
Yeah.
And so I want to support people's liberty as often and as much as we can. What is your opinion? You could see the clear ability to cause terrorism with this.
Oh, absolutely.
At the same time, though, I've said this forever. If somebody really wanted to just cause harm, like you said, for genetically, they want it for a want's sake.
Yeah.
Somebody could literally just take droplets of acid, go to an IHOP and put it in a salt shaker, and they've just screwed up 10 grandmas and 20 grandkids' lives. Like, you want to cause havoc in public. There's many ways to do it than just a gun. So I don't know if you need to bar this equipment. You need to stop those people. Like, we need less of those people.
I think it comes down to, I think if you're going to ban this, you
Do you? That's my question.
Do you ban it? Probably not.
Cool. I agree.
Now do you?
Because I should be allowed to attach it to my house, right?
Yeah.
Like, why was this a problem? You driving with it poses a social risk. You can disrupt emergency signals. However, me just being at my house shouldn't. But what if I live close to a police station?
Well,
what
sure.
if I live close to a school?
Yeah.
So where do those rights start and end? Because I want to say I should be allowed to stop any radio waves or surveillance in my home. But what's the limitations to that? How big is my radius? And what if my home is adjacent to something that should be protected?
Yeah, no, I think there is, because where I come with that is, so the schools, yeah, they're starting to, you're messing with them, you're messing with the ability to be able to call parents in emergency situations. I'm pretty sure your rights don't extend to that. Like, if you were to shine lasers right up in the sky, well, I'm just doing it on my property, it's fine, but you don't technically own. I think there's some legal framework.
Airspace.
Yep, there's a certain point where you own it, and then there's a lot of it where you don't.
Yeah.
So I think with this particular case and scenario, where like a gun, you shoot a gun, and it's a lot more direct, more intentional. It's A to B. I'm either shooting at something that I own, ground, my house, steel, whatever, or shooting something you own, your ground, your steel, your house. That's where that legal infringement comes in there. So you have freedom to be able to do that, but then once my freedom starts to really penetrate you, for lack of a better term, it's not good. It's not. Should be illegal. Absolutely should be held accountable on that end. But yeah, I think you make a pretty point here. Anyone could really just come in through here and just cause chaos. How much chaos can one person truly cause on a level that you just upend society with? You could probably really make a targeted effort, and that's why terrorists are. And so we have people in the government that stop terrorism, whether self-created or not. But this is, at the end of the day, I think this is just a real goofy story. This guy he's trying to keep cell phones off the road. And the law in Ohio now went into effect. You're not allowed to use cell phones while you're driving.
Really?
Yeah. So it's now
it's now being enforced.
enforced.
That's a healthy law.
Yeah, which sounds good on paper until you get pulled over because you're trying to answer a phone call. And like, oh my God, just government, leave me alone. Let me answer my phone in my car. But there is, I think, at a certain point here, as we get technology is a little more accessible and easier to be able to consume while we're driving, it should be limited in some way, shape, or form, or at least held. You got to be held accountable for you causing that public disruptance.
Yeah, but you know what? That immediate flashbacks to being 15 in debate. You know, my immediate pushback to a person who says we need to police phones. I will not support that until you shut down every drive-through. Do it. You do not get to come after my appropriate use of a cell phone
Okay.
when there's a multi-billion-dollar business around me eating cheeseburgers while I drive.
Okay.
So until that's addressed, which I am telling you, juggling my Frosty with my nuggets that I'm trying to dip and make this light is incredibly more dangerous than talk text or phone calls through my car.
No, I can see that. Now you dip your nuggets in your Frosty?
No,
Oof.
I'm holding a cup of barbecue and nuggets with a Frosty in my lap and fries in the cup holder. I'm juggling multiple flavors, and that's so much better than you texting mom, home soon.
Now, I think one thing too, the more you do something, the better you get at it. So the more you text and drive and you're successful at it,
Exactly.
you do get a little bit better. I'm sure that probably pertains like drinking and driving, nuggets and driving, dipping sauces and driving. The more you do it, the better you are going to get at it. So as a society, are we training ourselves to be a little bit better? I would love to know when cell phones started, like the iPhone and like apps and stuff really started catching on. Were there more accidents per capita then versus now, as we're a little more used to it?
A brief look while we're talking?
That'd be a good search.
I'd be super curious about that because here's the thing. I think you might see an immediate trend because, like anything, this is a total. I mean, dude, when that iPhone came out, we were lost for hours by an app that just like turned a fake lighter on and off.
Yep.
Like it was literally just a video of a lighter. And what's cool about it is I turn the screen and the flame would turn with it. It literally matched how I was holding. Or I could have a beer. And then when I would turn, it would make it look like I was drinking. That was the furthest extent of the iPhone. Like it wasn't following the geographical move of like your spouse like it does today. So I only say that because even at its most rudimentary version of the technology, you still had you still had
still have the ability to be able to use it and be distracted by it.
But I think it was incredibly distracting at first, and then very quickly it became like
yeah. No. So yeah, well, do you remember the gun app too? Where you had you put the gun and you shoot each other, or you shoot at other people. And then you have I remember for me it was the ruler. You have the ruler come out and it's like, oh man, I can measure all this stuff. Oh, let's see what, and then as you're a young boy, it's like, well, what do these things measure out at?
So I think if you were to run the statistics, what it's going to show is at first there was an initial spike because this is a whole new technology. We're totally wowed by it. Like, oh my God, I've never seen or experienced anything like this before. At the same time, though, I think like you're kind of indicating, we very quickly got used to it. It wasn't a new outrageous commodity anymore. And so fast, it just became an extension of our instinct. We could just operate it with no problem.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. You still you have that muscle memory of using the phone. That's just not something I think I'm starting to get less muscle memory for a keyboard because I'm typing more on a phone than I am on a keyboard.
I want to even take your point a space further. I bet you just as much as you see a spike with the introduction of smartphones or even cell phones, I think you also see an equally bigger dip, an equally impressive dip, if not a greater dip, when talk to text and talk over your car was introduced.
Oh, no.
I bet
that's a good point.
Also crushed the alarming statistics that were presented.
Yep.
early
No,
on.
I think that might be part of it as well, especially with Siri. Hey, take me here. Now you still, I think sometimes for me that's not always the best. Still try to, especially if you're, especially if you're trying to talk to someone, you're trying to sound intelligent because it's not always perfect. You try to edit yourself. That's where I've caught myself a few times driving a little too fast and a little too reckless while out with the phone here. So, what are your wrapping thoughts on the?
Wrapping thoughts are, I just love this guy taking matters into his own hands. But at the same time, like, dude, they're not going to crash into you. So just live and let live. Let idiocracy be. Their karma will come to them.
Yeah.
You'll make it safely every day. And one of these days, my dad was driving outside of Progressive Field because he works downtown or worked downtown. And one of the fender benders he got in was a lady who immediately halted because she was doing Pokemon Go while she was driving and caught an amazing character outside of Progressive Field. So all I'm saying is, like, her karma's coming. My dad can only do so much to avoid that person. The answer is, and I support the FCC as somebody that doesn't love agencies. I support the need for intervening in these types of scenarios, because while my dad could have stopped the Pokemon Go, he would have totally have disrupted emergency and assistance.
Yeah, and we don't want that, 'cause I don't think, as much as I'm not the biggest fan of police, but at least like ambulance, fire, they're intentionally going out to help people, and they're not trying to. So I don't want to limit their ability, because their job's honestly tough enough as it is. So you don't want to make their jobs more difficult or put them on an island where they can't respond.
Totally agree. Brian, any wrapping thoughts?
I have found some statistics.
Here, just talk about it.
All right. So since April 4th, when April 4th, 2023, the law came into play, there's been a 9.1% reduction in distracted drivers, preventing 540 crashes, 1 fatality, and $13 million in economic damages. Going back, I had distracted drivers caused more than 60,000 crashes and more than 200 deaths in Ohio in the past 5 years.
Yeah, those are just numbers. If we were quick enough on it, I'd have you show the numbers for alcohol, and it's buries that. So this is nothing.
Yeah.
When you talk about 9%, that's a drop in the bucket. And even those numbers are nothing compared to what's really affecting us on the roads. So it's a moot point. I
agree with you there.
Again, I don't think the problem on the roads is distracted drivers because of cell phones. And I think this is just a distractive point to make it look like our politicians are actually doing something. And I think it's a wasted effort. But at the same time, one life saved is a life worth saving.
Yeah.
So I think it's all worth it in the end.
Yeah.
But again, Brian, wrapping thoughts, and then we'll close this.
Ricky joined us, said, "Bless
Ricky.
up, boys." And he said, "Wait, why not a fan of the police?"
Oh, geez. Oh, wow. So, well, he's going on my topic of I'm not the biggest fan of the police. The police.
You're not a big fan of the police?
Not all the time. No, not all the time. Not at all.
Yeah. Do you want to live in a world without them? Because I
Not
think the
necessarily.
only reason you feel safe in a world next to a Kemp is because the only thing stopping him from grabbing you by your feet and turning you upside down is the police.
Yeah. Well, the police can also, they have unregulated power. Their police union is very, very strong, and they are able to impose their will on you whenever they want. I think the checks and balances for police are a lot more minimal than they used to be.
Yeah, but let's agree, what you're picking at is that we need to heighten the standard of police, but you don't, I'm telling you right now, what you're advocating for is not a world without police.
No. I'm not defunding the police.
Again, heightening the standard of police is not defunding the police. Requiring them to live to a standard that we require even just the basic seals is not defunding the police or rolling out the police or disliking police. So understanding that you sleep in your home with your wife, knowing that in the kind of unsafe area that's being gentrified, a guy isn't jumping through your window because the police exist. Again, banks were created because there was a world without police. Now we live in a world where the banks are stripping me of everything I have, and I comfortably take out the 20 grand and take it home because I don't need to worry about somebody coming and robbing me like they did in the Wild Wild West because the police exist.
Well, what we see with like the looting epidemic we have going on right now, a lot of that's police not doing their job and not enforcing the laws in front of them. We're starting to see a culture, and part of it is defund the police. I think we lost a lot of good officers due to defunding the police because, well, anyone who's trying to be above the law and try to be that moral savior with all that power is probably pretty difficult and hard to be. You probably see corruption opportunities all the time, and you want to stay above that. And especially if you have a culture, and it's not every police, it's not every office, it's not every single department, but there is definitely examples of those departments being corrupted and not working necessarily for the people. It's working sometimes against the very people that
Can
are.
we agree?
Okay.
When the problem is corruption, the answer isn't a totally lack thereof or their non-existence.
I agree. No, I don't. I don't want my point to be no police. Am I maybe at an arm's length distance of the police because there is history of corruption, especially I think even in Cleveland too. There is some of that as well, and there is opportunities for them to abuse that power. So there is always going to be that disconnect where hey, you're helping keep bad guys away from my area or helping bad guys just stay off the streets. But at the same time, are you harassing me because I ran a red light a little bit too much, or I'm going 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, or are you just questioning me because you think I look sketchy?
Let's agree. Power goes to people's head. It corrupts absolutely. And at the same time, we're letting basic regular people have the power of above that.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I
Not
agree.
gods, but above that.
Yeah.
I would admit that can be dangerous. At the same time, I don't want to live in an anarchy society without it. Brian, final comment because we're moving on. All right. I think it's time to wrap the conversation. Moving on to our last and final topic. You can now get your bachelor's degree in social media influencing. That's what I was trying to volley at you, man. All right. So get your degree in bachelor's degree influencing. Social media influencing. So what I found, there was reports that Ireland has now created a bachelor's degree in social media influencing. The Southeast Technological University in Carlisle, according to Dr. Eleanor O'Leary, who is a media and communications lecturer at this university, they are now creating a bachelor's degree in social media influencing, which will teach their students business skills, video and audio editing, critical cultural studies, and creative writing. Quite literally, all of those things are exactly what I would love to learn. And even with my legal degree and my doctorate, I'm tempted on moving to Ireland strictly for this degree because it would help me immensely for this project we're doing here. Graduates, according to O'Leary, will be equipped to either work for themselves as a self-employed influencer or in creating content for a company or organization. So what are your thoughts on this?
So this is... I know the title sounds a little kind of ridiculous. Like, well, we're having a college course on having to be a social media influencer. But when you go into detail about what exactly this course is about, boy, there's a lot of different facets to this. It's on entrepreneurial skills, it's communication, marketing. You could see a lot of that just being wrapped into this one big Venn diagram of being a social media influencer. And as we see universities try to compete with each other, is this an opportunity for a university to go, hey, I'm going to offer a really cool course and a really cool opportunity to teach these types of skills I think are a little, I don't know if they're always teachable, but definitely there's ways you can learn from those teaching it. And does it provide an opportunity to just have a different, instead of going to economics, instead of going to, organic chemistry, I'll do social media influencing, because you're probably, at the end of the day, might be more likely to try a podcast or try something on YouTube, TikTok, whatever. versus, well, I need to know, the organics of this tree and how this reacts with sap and all that. So I see this. It's silly. It's ridiculous. But at the same time, I'm kind of into it. I'm kind of bought in. I'm seeing that tinge of you kind of like this as well.
All right. Would I love to benefit from this? Totally, totally, totally. However, one of the things I experience is how different is this from a gender studies degree? Like, you're going to pay all this money, you're going to go into debt, you're going to make a giant loan, and then you're going to just throw yourself out there into the world going, I'm expecting to be Charlie D'Amelio. Where's my Hulu show about me and my millions of dollars? And then you have a $200,000 debt you owe, and you're looking at baby daddy Joe Biden going, wipe me of the debt because I didn't have the forethought to realize this is a retarded fucking degree. So all I'm going to say is, and this is my bit of hubris, I'm a hardworking dude with a profession outside of this game that we got 3 people in here investing themselves in this project. This is totally outside of what I went into my debt for, degree-wise, what I've committed to myself professionally, and if I'm lucky and strike gold outside of my profession, it goes back to like that AJR song about like Fridays. While all my friends are having beers at the bar, my Friday is this. And you know what? I may be lucky and be singing to you all on a stage like AJR, or all of those Fridays were for naught. But the only way to know is to try and throw my hat in the ring. At the same time, though, I'm not lost under such a delusion thinking, well, if I just commit myself totally, like think about how many people threw away being a doctor to be a comedian. And I'd give anything to be a stand-up comedian. At the same time, though, you got to recognize how small of a portion of people get that. And while every single one of them that is at the mothership telling you to quit your job and be a comedian because that's how they did it, yes, they quit their job and totally committed their life to being into comedy. At the same time, though, the stories you don't hear about are the overwhelming number of people that bury those people that also quit their job, committed their life to comedy, and are panhandling for money because they can't even afford the sandwich today. So here's what's beautiful. My little side hobby might be a profession one day and take over my life, but I also have a fallback plan. That fallback plan isn't selling cell phones at Sprint or pouring concrete, jobs I had in the past. But at the same point, it's being a damn good professional. Running a courthouse, something that many other people would go, that's respectable. So I think at the time at which you commit your life to this, you have much more fruitful loins to lean on.
Well, so do you not want more entrepreneurial spirited people? Because I don't see this as a gender studies class, because there's a lot more kind of self-fulfillment, a lot more motivation, like self-motivating properties that go into this type of industry that you don't see with gender studies, that you don't see with lesbian dance theory, underwater basket weaving. You don't see that a lot with them. You're relying on the system, the university, to be able to provide those jobs. But there is no job for social media influencing, or at least they're not very readily available.
So let's agree, because I think children have that's what we're talking about. You're picking the track for the rest of your life, and most of them are children. What you experience is they have a short-sighted perspective.
Yeah.
So I would love if this was cut under the frame of a business degree, and you're using this as something to sell to companies because what you can do to expand their marketing. Hell yeah. But let's also agree the majority of people, just like the two-dimensional assholes that are picking gender studies degrees, most of the people that are going to pick this degree are not going to use it as a tool to sell themselves to a business to further their marketing scheme, but really it's how do I become Charlie D'Amelio or Logan Paul?
Yeah, but I think you can do that with any type of degree. You don't train to be a scientist because you're eventually, the goal is to be Neil Armstrong, to be on the moon. But most people don't want to do that. But does that drive you to maybe try to be a little bit better at being a scientist or within that field? You're not. There's always going to be the top 10%, the top 20% of any profession that is famous that goes about it. But at least with this degree, you can dip your toe in the water and go, well, hey, any good instructor would tell you if you're here, you're killing. And if you succeed from this course, you still might fail. It's like that, well, or like sports. You know, do you play football because you think you're going to be, Travis Kelce one of these days, or do you play football because you think, hey, it's fun, this is a good opportunity, I like doing this, and is this a
But
whole?
see, that comes down to a debate that like was literally almost friendship shattering with one of my closest friends. He was ready to dedicate his entire life to football to such a degree that I watched this friend not even consider a plan B. To such a point where it was almost dangerous. And fortunately, that's just being young and dumb.
Yep.
And we grow out of that. And that evolved. But the reason it was alarming to me is you don't want to commit yourself to being Travis Kelce. And I'm all for that without something else. Because there's more people that have committed themselves to Travis Kelce and it not developing or blooming than those that actually committed everything. And because if that was the only element that got you there, then everybody would be able to be Travis Kelce. Everybody, no matter the formula, would be able to dedicate everything. Just 10,000 hours, and they're magically Travis Kelce. Some of it is just God-given talent. Some of it is just circumstances you were born into, the environment that's around you, and the things and circumstances that prop you up. You can't rely on that. A lot of it is luck. A lot of it is fluke. And without the plan B and without training that consciousness into people, I'm all for wanting to be Logan Paul, hence the Rethink Tank. But the reality is, I can't also encourage you to quit going to law school and all the other more difficult hurdles that aren't as pretty and flashy for the hope of being Logan Paul. Because in the realm where that doesn't happen, you still get to be in charge of your local courthouse and have an actual impact on your community and be a fruitful role model for the people around you.
Yeah, I think a good instructor, that's probably their starting pitch. That's their opening monologue for the whole course.
But how many of the problem is the student base? How many of them are truly internalizing that?
Well, is that for the university to control that? Because they're still going to, I can offer a business degree, but I'm not good at business, but I'm still going to get it anyway, even though if I suck at this, hoping I'm going to be a major entrepreneur or a stock trader and all that, I can still be bad at it. Even if it's a good, or I could be a doctor, still be a bad doctor, get myself sued to oblivion, I'm out of here. So there is a certain point where I think we just see social media influencing. It's kind of one of those, you're kind of reaching for the stars type of mentality where in most cases you could just do this as a hobby, or at least in this case, have it as an opportunity. It's like, oh, this could be like a master's degree course.
Right.
And they frame it in such a way. You got to let the individual, you got to trust the individual.
The difference between a course and a degree, right?
Yeah.
I think anybody could benefit from a course that addresses those four main topics, right? Something that's teaching you business skills, something that's teaching you video and audio editing, and critical cultural studies. I'd love cultural studies.
Yeah.
And then creative writing. A course that teaches you that is great. A degree is a whole nother thing. It's much more niche. Yes, those are skills that are valuable and sellable, but at the same time, there's really no profession that is seeking those skills specifically besides something that is a lottery ticket. Brian.
So Rick, you brought up the point of, isn't this just marketing with a name change? And I responded with, yes, I think it would be considered marketing degree, more like a specialized marketing degree. Like I got corrosion engineering, which is a specialization of a chemical engineering position.
That's brilliant. So I like that you both raised that, because taking the story now a step further.
Okay.
Right. So what I discovered was that Ireland just created this bachelor's degree. That's what's floating around the news amongst many news outlets. And that's kind of a hot thing right now. Well, what did I come to learn? Arkansas Tech has a bachelor's of arts degree in social media influencing.
Okay.
So I went to their page and their description of a social media influencing. And as America does, they do it better and it makes more sense. And this would be more applicable and more sellable. The degree anticipates and parallels trends taking place in the professional world, namely the problem that messages are no longer controlled by the messenger. Film companies, manufacturers, public agencies, for example, no longer maintain control over their own brand because what influences public perception is not merely the result of advertising, but those who can influence the perception socially. This program teaches students how to be social influencer professionals that assist employers in creating perceptions of their products or services. Hence, it is a marketing degree that is highly sellable to a market that needs to adapt to this ever-evolving social media landscape and where the marketing landscape has turned to.
Yeah. Oh, that's no, that's that does sound a lot better. Yeah, I was dumbfounded. Like, oh my god, I'm speechless by that one. That was so much better. But yeah, I think there's now Arkansas. That's weird. You think it'd be like an LA school or
Right.
Miami or New York or something like that. But hey, good for Arkansas Tech or Arkansas State going out there. But yeah, imagine. All right, so picture yourself here. You're a young professional. You just got out of school. You got this brand new social media marketing degree, or social media influencing degree, and you're going down to LA. You're going after these marketing companies. You're doing all these wonderful things. So it's between you and a couple other people. You have this degree, and now I'm assuming with this degree, any good professor would have you do a highlight reel, would have you do a podcast, edit your own videos, do all sorts of different things to be able to put yourself on a platform that's above, the others that are in the job seeking market. I could see that as a very valuable tool, especially it's a niche industry, but I think we're going to start seeing this grow a lot more as more companies start to understand, or at least there's new and different ways to go after social media marketing. So if you remember back in, way early days of Twitter, when like fast food companies would just kind of throw their products out there and there wasn't a whole lot of personality. It was just another promotional, like another commercial. And then there was this one particular woman at Arby's that just started getting sassy with everyone that would comment on Wendy's, and she revolutionized the way companies impact social media. How invaluable is that type of person to your brand or a platform? If you're able to get that right person. I don't know. I think she was probably like a communications degree or something like that, but something like that, there is an appetite, a good company.
Talking about the person that was the Wendy's Twitter?
There was the Wendy's Twitter.
Yeah, right. So what's interesting about that topic is you have other fast food joints and companies that try to jump on the trend and have another sassy Twitter that's equally as fun, but none of them came close to the impact and also just the appreciation this account had from the public. It goes to speak how invaluable that skill is.
Yeah.
Question is that skill trainable? Because guess what? Logan Paul and Jake Paul didn't go to a course for this.
Yeah.
It was an instinct. John Astasio, a guy that I partner with in many of the Rethink Tank content. I love working with this guy. We have two very different philosophies. At the same time, first concession off bat is he's the best at networking and growing for new guests and getting more attention. At the same time, somebody who's not as good at it, so really shouldn't have anywhere the room to talk. I have a totally different philosophy. He's signing up for all of these people who aren't Joe Rogan, right? Like, yeah, you have 10,000 followers and I don't, and my goal is to get 10,000 followers, but why am I paying you to listen to you? You're not Joe Rogan. So one, you're not the best of the best. And a lot of it is like a bunch of regular people who want to think they're Joe Rogan, patting each other on the back. So it's this delicate balance of you don't want to just like, who's going to be in that room? Is the young John Belushi going to be finding themselves in that course? I mean, the groundlings today can't necessarily be the groundlings that made Chevy Chase and John Belushi.
Yeah.
Right? So some of this is kind of just got to catch the wave when the wave is happening. And the time at which the corporate sector is coming to train you on how to be a better Logan Paul, it's probably a little too late. Probably missed the wave.
Maybe at least on the easy money. But like acting, there's acting coaches out there and a lot of really good actors use
Yeah.
acting coaches, and I call that a mature industry. And there's still some. It still comes to the individual to be able to help market and do something a little bit different. We could sit here and basically just do exactly Joe Rogan every single time, but no one wants to watch that because there's already Joe Rogan that's already out there. So we're gonna be us. We're gonna be different, and I think I hope this type of course would try to spark that development within someone who has like a twinkle in their eye. Like, I want to be able to do this. I want to go out there, but maybe I just don't know some of the technical details to be able to do this. Or, we learn from other people doing different things. I like cooking. I watch other people cook online and do all that. So to figure out how can I be better in my own, hobby, but just doing it, for my own, personal enjoyment. So I think there's a little bit of that in there. It all depends on the quality of the course. If you're getting a crappy course out of this, well, this is just a money grab for the university. But if there's some honest, earnest effort being put into this, I would love to see what the fruit bears from that type of course. It could be another gender study, it could be another drama class. There is university drama classes. You can major in being drama and dance. And that's only going to get you maybe so far professionally if you're not willing to have some of that entrepreneurial spirit. But here, I think it's early enough to where some people go, well, I just need to be better on the technical side of things and kind of learn from people who've done it before. And that way I can kind of take my own spin on things and be a little bit different. I think, or I'm hoping, maybe this is the earnestness in me and the optimism. That's what I hope this class really is at the end of the day teaching.
I can appreciate that. Brian, wrapping thoughts?
I think this is a valid thing. Like you were saying, like the actors and being on the technical side and just wanting to have a basis of what to actually do and how to get your foot into the door.
I appreciate that. My wrapping thought is this. I can definitely have as somebody who was young, wanting to be an actor, maybe this was just the damnation that my parents put on me, and this is on them. But I also don't think they were very wrong. And so as somebody, when asked, kid want to be a firefighter, kid want to be an astronaut, I wanted to be an actor. And there's the reality check of nobody's saying you can't, but really you should focus on something else. You're not going to be a football player. So focus on something else. And if that develops, then great. So when I look at this English course and I list those 4 skills that it's trying to develop, and it's looking at me, somebody who's gone to the highest level of education, is a professional, and is able to pay for themselves and be a functioning member of society. At that point, when I see value, this will extend my hobby and make me a sharper Swiss Army knife. I think the value it poses is it being further education. This being something I take to further my hobby, which can then develop into something great. It resonates with me that a seasoned profession like acting parallels this, and who's to say that down the line we don't have podcasting coaches and develop this profession. But guess what? What I have to concede is even in the realm of acting, there are more failed actors than there are Ryan Seacrest. So at some point, we need to recognize that you are playing the lottery, and you must agree with me that it doesn't trigger the same emotion because it isn't an actual profession. But if we started asking kids, what do you want to be? I want to be a doctor. What do you want to be? I want to be an engineer. What do you want to be? I want to play the lottery for the rest of my life. You'd go, that's a sickness. We call lottery tickets the idiot tax for a reason.
Yep.
And so there's something to be said about nobody's saying you can't gamble a little bit. You can't have a drink here or there. You have your fun. But I do not think it is a healthy society, because this is a trend and it's only going to get worse. Every kid's got a TikTok. Every kid's got a Facebook and an Instagram. All of them want to be Charlie D'Amelio.
Yeah.
Only a certain number of them are going to have parents and a support group around them to bring reality to check them with reality and go, hey, think of something else. Don't close the door on it. But why do people love getting TikTok famous? None of those people have actually dedicated their lives to TikTok.
Nope.
They're a Walmart personnel that made it big. and you hit the lottery.
Yep.
And we're all here to have the front row seat and cheer you on as you do it. But let's also don't get caught in the idiocracy thinking we all can be that, because that person only has money to live in the Beverly Hills and have multiple boats, because the rest of us clowns are still going to our 9 to 5 and punching in. So that job only exists when the rest of us are piddly ants doing the gears to this society.
No, yeah, pretty well put. Pretty well put. A little more pessimistic side on that end.
Unfortunately. But that's coming from somebody that's grinding every hour in this space. So I'm not one to discourage people from entering this space, but make yourself a stronger caliber person in other spaces. So when this space fails, it doesn't cripple you, and my ass and my taxes are stuck feeding you.
That's fair. Well, that's fair. That's fair.
So I appreciate you all joining us. Thank you. Pick a one and I'll stick to it. All right.
Sorry about that.
Thanks, guys, for joining us live again. We appreciate all the guys that joined us, Ricky, the Seamalls, Amanda, Will, all the folks that joined us. We want you involved in the dialogue, and that's the beautiful anecdote to the live show. So please join us every Tuesday at 7 p.m. We're going to have a fun dialogue for you waiting, and we want to get you in on it. So please be sure to join us there. Otherwise, you can catch all of our content on our website at www.rethinktankpodcast.com. Check us out across all the platforms. You can catch me at GurAt57 or the Rethink Tank at re_think_tank. David, my good friend, where can they find you?
They can find me at Instagram, David Cunningham 7112, and that's the one and only. That's where I'm at. That's my only platform.
I mean, there's 7,111 in front of him, but
one of many.
one of many. Brian, where can they find you?
BC Mall. Yep, on Instagram.
Love
There
it.
we go.
Next time, we're going to have Brian on camera. My phone died, so I feel bad. We only had him here for a little bit. And we're going to figure out this court situation. Our audio is going to be coming clearer and more distinct next time. So, guys, catch us next Tuesday. What's up?
Subscribe on Thread.
Subscribe. We need on Rumble.
Oh,
We
Rumble.
need you to subscribe on Rumble. Cheers to Brian for that reminder. We want to go live on the other platforms. And the way to get us on Rumble is we need 5 more subscribers on the Rethink Tank page. So please check us out there. Sorry, Brian, I got lost in the cameras. But otherwise, guys, we'll catch you next Tuesday. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you, guys. Nice round.
Yeah.